All right. Hi everybody. So I read through all of the slides in the presentation. And so in response to tonight's, this week's um, discussion prompt regarding the timeline for Toronto's environmental movement, I wanted to kind of focus on two things that I saw in the presentation. One was the carbon credit policy, and the other was the zero waste high rise project. So in regard to the carbon credit, I thought that was really cool to read about because I know that the last couple years, um, I've heard talk and headlines about the conversation within the US about the carbon, uh, like a carbon tax or carbon credit policy similar to what they apparently have in Toronto. But that's, like I said, really only been in the last couple years. So it seemed, and it's not even something that we've implemented yet, as far as I know. But Toronto has had a program in place like that for almost a decade now, which I thought was really cool. So it's obvious that they are really progressive on that front. And it seems, based on reading some of the literature provided, it seems like it's definitely made an impact to their city. And then the other thing that I found was awesome that I think is definitely going to have a broad cultural impact was the Zero Waste High Rise project, which took a high rise apartment building and involved converting parts of the building into like a recycling facility to help process the waste within the building itself, as opposed to sending it out to other locations to be processed. Because that is, as I mean, I've seen here in the US, that's not always 100% reliable in terms of actually getting processed in a sustainable manner, even if some of these companies say that they do. So having total control over that process within the building and being able to sort everything, process the waste, and even in one of the articles that I read, just to do a little extra research on it, one of the articles that I read said that they, like the managers of the building, will actually collect items that residents are getting rid of. If they're in good shape, they'll offer them as donations to other residents who may need them, so that further eliminates waste and fills a need. So I thought that was really, really cool, and it's becoming something that's expanding out of just the one building that was originally doing it. It's becoming a conversation within many buildings in the city. And I think that this is definitely an idea that can be applied all over the place. It's something that'll really help bring sustainability into people's lives without them having to do a ton of extra work. Because people with their time constraints, financial constraints, just general inconvenience, that's a big reason why they don't partake in some of these things. But since they, in Toronto, this particular building was converted, I guess, not entirely redesigned, but was made to be more efficient in the way that they processed the waste that the residents created. It doesn't leave a lot of extra work for the residents to do. And so it seems like a really great way to incorporate a sustainable lifestyle into your location, that can easily be, like, the footprint for it, the blueprint for it, can easily kind of be transferred to other locations. So while something like the carbon tax takes a lot of overhead and a lot of, you've got to get a lot of different people on board, it doesn't take quite as much for somebody to go into their community, like into their own high-rise building, work with their community and say, hey, let's make this change, and then start implementing, different processes, and having various recycling receptacles and that kind of stuff. Those little changes are a lot easier to make, and can bring a lot of people, a lot of the normal people who aren't politicians, who aren't making these big policy changes, but just the normal everyday people. It'll really help bring them into the conversation. So I thought that was an awesome, awesome addition to our timeline. That's all I have for tonight, and thank you very much.